On behalf of India Foundation, I'll take this opportunity to welcome all of you for participating in this first virtual conference on cyberspace, emerging threats, terrorism, and the response. This particular conference is being organized by India Foundation in collaboration with International Institute for Counter-Terrorism, which is part of IDC Herzliya. And India Foundation and IDC Herzliya have a history of collaboration. In fact, we have been collaborating for a number of years. Professor Bose Ganor has been participating in our counterterrorism conference. We have been going and participating in the CTC at Herzliya for a number of years. And in fact, we can take pride that we are the two institutions which organize the biggest counterterrorism conferences on the surface of the globe. So we are probably, India and Israel are also the two countries which have been affected the most by the terrorism. So I think there is a natural congruence as far as the two countries are concerned. There's a natural convergence between the two institutions. And we have been doing physical conferences, but the global pandemic has actually forced us to start using the virtual medium. So once we start moving to the cyber medium, we have actually visualized that the terrorism threats are not only confined to the physical space, but today cyberspace has become a big hub of terrorism. We have seen sovereign funds of countries being taken away from their national banks by hackers. We have seen critical infrastructure being targeted by terrorists in the cyber domain. And we have seen ransomware, new domains are. Mostly what has happened is that most of us are generally ignorant about this dimension of terrorism. So this particular conference is primarily aimed at acquainting all of you with what are the different facets of cyberspace terrorism in the cyberspace, what are the threats, because most of us are grossly unaware of what are the threats, and then how do we deal with it, because in days to come, this is going to be one of the major threats that would emanate and target the countries, and countries like India, Israel, and the global community at large has to be prepared to deal with it. And consequently, we have structured this conference in this 2 days conference. We will be looking at big data, artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is something which is coming up and most of us are ignorant. There have been giant strides that have been made as far as the field of artificial intelligence is concerned, which creates both threats as well as opportunities, because this creates bigger problems. The threats get manifested, they expand many folds, but at the same time, artificial intelligence is a powerful tool to counter this. Of course, one of the themes which we all know is that most of the terrorists today, the global terrorist organizations, have indoctrinated people using the social media. And social media has been a strong tool for indoctrination and recruitment, not only for Al-Qaeda, but also for Islamic State and many other global terrorist organizations which have been using. So one of the sessions would be dealing with social media, where we would try and look at tools for propaganda, radicalization, and recruitment. Then, of course, there are issues which most of us are probably ignorant of. We know that Bitcoins and different types of cryptocurrencies have been in vogue, but these cryptocurrencies have been used by people who have been indulging in ransomware and a large number of cyber crimes. So we need to understand what are cryptocurrencies, dark webs, and cognitive networks. And then, of course, we would move on to state response to cyber threat, because the states have to respond to these emerging threats. These threats are serious threats. And I think though a large chunk of our population is still ignorant about what is the gravity of the situation, we need to be aware of this, how we need to deal with it. And this, I hope in this 2 days conference, all of you will gather greater information. You will be more aware as far as the challenges are concerned. And without wasting much time, I'll now request Professor Bose Ganor, who needs no introduction. He is actually the founder and executive director of the International Institute for Counter-Terrorism and Ronald S. Lauder Chair for Counter-Terrorism. He's a renowned name as far as the field of counter-terrorism is concerned. And without wasting much time, I'll now request Professor Bose Ganor to address all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Captain Aluk Bansal, my dear friend, Honorable Ambassador Ron Malka, Honorable Ambassador Anitha, Nandhini. Well, after listening to you, Alok, I think that I should follow the British gesture just by saying here, here, and finish my greetings because you covered it all. So thank you for this, this opening. I would like just to stress very briefly, first of all, the importance of this gathering, the importance of this conference, focusing on the subject itself, on the timing, and on the cooperation between India Foundation and ICT. As for the subject, I think you alluded to the problem, which is a growing phenomenon, the malicious activity of terrorist organization, organized crime, rogue countries, and so on and so forth in the cyberspace for many different purposes, but all of them practically are very negative. This is a cross-border threat that forces us in a way to pay attention to it and to deal with it in order to look for a few better and more effective solutions to that problem. The timing, I think, is also very important because we are all experiencing maybe one of the worst phenomenon in mankind, and I'm talking about COVID-19, that actually force us to stay at home, to work from home, to do all our economical activity from home. And this is heaven for those terrorists and criminals that are using the cyberspace for the purpose of disrupting our day-to-day life. And today, of course, they have the availability to do so in a very simple manner altogether. But the third concept, or the third aspect that I would like to stress is the cooperation. I would start with the important cooperation between India and Israel. I think we're talking about two states which are in the forefront of cyber activity, technological development, and so on and so forth. That's why it's only natural to have a joint effort focusing on that specific subject matter. But as you have mentioned, we regard India Foundation as a whole, and you personally as our dear, dear friends. We are very happy to participate in the India Foundation activities and to invite you to our activities as we did in the past. Yes, we have the two best conferences in the world, but you have a much better statue that you give to the speakers compared to our token of appreciation altogether. So this cooperation between the two institutes is strong, and it's being strengthened by this specific conference altogether. And I would like actually to take the opportunity to thank the previous Israeli ambassador to India, Danny Carmon, who's joining us. And we are very fortunate at ICT. When he finished his service in the Foreign Office, he joined us as a senior researcher of ICT, and he's definitely pushing into further cooperation between India and Israel, between India Foundation and ICT altogether. I would like to thank also the two cyber czars of India and Israel, Lieutenant General Rajesh Panet and Mr. Igal Una, who actually agreed to participate and to honor us with their presence. Of course, the ambassadors which are here, once again, thank you. And thank you, India Foundation, Alok, and all the participants in this conference. I'm sure we are going to have extraordinary joy and inter-Pacific conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We now have His Excellency Dr. Ron Malka, the Ambassador of Israel to India. May I request you to kindly address us, sir?
Good morning in Israel and good afternoon, colleagues in India. It gives me immense pleasure to be part and to talk in this such an important conference. And I want to thank, in the beginning, the organizers for conducting such an important conference. Yes, I also want to say hi to my dear friend Ram Adar, that I now see, which is here with us, and of course my dear friend Danny Carmon, my predecessor as an ambassador here in India, and of course to His Excellency Sanjeev Singla, the ambassador of India to Israel. dear colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, the world is becoming smarter. We are all becoming smarter. We have now smart cars, smart homes, smart cities, smart mobility. By becoming smart, we are becoming much more beneficial, much more efficient, but also much more vulnerable. So we need to be able, as alongside this process of becoming smart and digital, all our systems, also to be able to protect them. And this is exactly where the cybersecurity is coming in. And in order to be able to match with this very welcome process of becoming smart, the cybersecurity abilities must be one step ahead, always one step ahead. It demands very, very much creativity, and it demands initiative, but also collaboration. When borders become very vague, and the cyber arena is international arena. And in order to overcome the cyber challenge, we need to collaborate, to cooperate. And what is more natural than two key strategic partners like Israel and India that can collaborate and really bring added value to each other and strengthen each other, because together we are much, much more stronger. So realizing that, in 2018, we signed an MOU on cybersecurity between Israel and India. And later on, in July 2020, we signed an operational MOU that will enable MediaCert and our directorate, the International Cyber Directorate of Israel, to collaborate and to share experience, practices, systems, information, which really strengthens us together. And I would say that Israel and India can be a shining example for how collaboration between nations can be so fruitful. Just lately, under this COVID pandemic, Israel and India did a joint research on rapid tests for COVID-19. It was so successful when scientists from Ministry of Defense of Israel came to India and joint research with scientists from the Ministry of Defense on India, and they managed within 9 days to take 25,000 samples. This shows us how much collaboration between Israel and India can be fruitful and rewarding. And you know, ambassadors from many, many countries called me asking, how did you manage to do that? To be so successful in collaboration? Yes, India and Israel can collaborate very successfully, and we can do it in many, many fields, of course, in science, technology, and specifically in cybersecurity. And collaboration is a power multiplier. It unites us, and as I said before, makes us much more powerful and much more effective, and enable us to be really one step ahead of everyone in order to be able to protect our systems, our nations, our countries, the economy, security, and all other vulnerable smart systems that we use that makes our life so much easier, but as I said, so much vulnerable. So I wish you all a very constructive conference. It's a very important conference. I can tell you that on our side, we are available for you for any further assistance that you might need just to collaborate and to take this cooperation between our two nations, key strategic partners, to new heights. And all will there for you. Thank you so much again for inviting me.
Thank you for those insightful words, Ambassador. I would now request Ms. Anitha Nandhini, the Deputy Chief of Mission in the Embassy of India in Israel, to please deliver her address.
Captain Alok Bansal, India Foundation, Professor Boaz Ganor, Founder and Executive Director, IDC Herzliya, Excellency Ron Malka, Ambassador of Israel to India, distinguished members and friends, Namaste, Shalom, and Chag Sameach to my Jewish friends. I congratulate India Foundation and IDC Herzliya for convening this virtual conference on this extremely critical topic. As you all know, India has nearly 700 million internet users across the country in 2020, and which means the internet penetration has crossed the mark of 50%, and the number is poised to reach 1 billion in 2025. Also, our smartphone users in India are expected to reach 820 million by 2022. So as Excellency mentioned, this brings us huge possibilities. We are becoming more smart, but it's very important not to become stupid at the same time. So as of now, our digital economy in India is generating around 200 billion US dollars annually, and it's expected to touch anywhere between $800 billion to $1 trillion in 2025. So this is a great enabler. The digital technology is a great enabler for India, and we saw this with our own eyes during the COVID-19 times. As you all know, Government of India has focused particularly on 9 emerging technologies that will influence the future of economy in India: cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, big data analytics, cloud computing, blockchain, robotic process automation, Internet of Things, virtual reality, and social mobile applications. As we see, this conference is covering almost all aspects of these important areas. Honorable Prime Minister of India has envisioned a big role for artificial intelligence, especially in agriculture, in reaching out to people through water. We can see that our Jal Jeevan mission has already started implementing Internet of Things in supply of water to our people in India. Disaster management, which becomes more critical and critical as day passes, problem of climate change. Therefore, with our ever increasing footprint in cyberspace, there's enhanced need to formulate policy measures for securing our cyber domain. A recent assessment report by the COVID-19 cybercrime impact on Asia and South Pacific region by Interpol shows that cyber criminals are taking advantage of the economic downturn and people's anxiety and have enhanced their social engineering tactics by using COVID-19 as the basis of their attacks. And this kind of targeted disinformation, fake news, wrong information is also an emerging threat. Interpol has warned that this infodemic of information has interfered with our abilities to craft proper policy. We also see that World Economic Forum has described this cyber attack and data fraud as biggest concern during the pandemic. With respect to our defense forces, India has started including unmanned weapon systems, command and control systems, information distribution systems, but the nature of armed forces as such is that it is impossible to rely completely on physically secured media of communication, such as fiber optics, and we have to realize the fluid nature of operations. The cyberspace is borderless, and therefore our efforts to harness this shared space should also be unfettered by national boundaries and be based on regional and global cooperation. In this context, our prime ministers from India and Israel have envisaged deepening of a bilateral strategic cooperation in defense, counter-terrorism, security, and cyber sectors. The two countries have signed agreement on operational cyber collaboration. India and Israel also have joint working groups on counter-terrorism, homeland security, and public security. The platforms are utilized to discuss new and emerging threats in both physical and cyber spaces. So as such, we emphasize that the core value of liberty, freedom of expression, and rule of law should apply to cyberspace as well. It is in our common interest to maintain peaceful, secure, and resilient cyberspace. We want countries to find common ground on cyber norms, which encourage international cooperation towards security while fostering equitable access to cyberspace. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and all the best for your conference. Thank you.